All right. Well, welcome back, everybody, to Aligning with Success. Mike DiMuccio here, your host. Pleasure to be here on the day after June 21st. I guess we now are officially into summer. I'm going to ask if you're unmuted, if you would please mute your line so we don't have a lot of trouble with the background noise. I got to tell you, so what prompted my invitation to Sophia, who will be our guest speaker tonight, or guest provocator, is we've just had, actually, if you count today, it would be 9 days of information from Science and Spirituality, a program that was put together by a number of wonderful presenters, speakers, certainly people who are on the leading edge of both science and spirituality. And as you know, that's been the nature of my subject, especially where this call is concerned, aligning with success, because I believe success is imminent. And one of the possibilities of the many possibilities available to you as an individual, and of course, for us as a collective. And there are rules to playing the game to win. And once we understand what these rules are, we begin to understand how it is that we've created the life that we've created thus far. So the good news is we've created the life we've created. The bad news is we've created the life we've created. So understanding the rules becomes a pretty important part of the exercise. And a couple of weeks ago, we had Mary Robson give us a recap on some of the information she's been going through from a curriculum she's been doing with Bob Proctor called The Science of Getting Rich. And she's actually in her second month now of the 30-day application of that, which I think is extraordinary, because what we do learn about how this works is we have to reprogram ourselves. We've all been conditioned and programmed, as you know, and the reprogramming doesn't happen in an instant. It happens through the same way we got programmed. We got programmed through spaced repetition over time, and we get rewired or reprogrammed with spaced repetition over time. The question is, what are we going to reprogram ourselves as? So I invited Sophia because I know you guys have heard Sophia in the past, and you've probably followed some of her stuff online through her channel, her Instagram channel, her YouTube channel called The Mind Palace, officially themindpalace.ca. She can correct me if I'm wrong. And of course, having now 9 days of interaction with her about what she's seeing, the insights that she's gaining. And if any of you've actually listened or read some of her recent posts, you will see there's a progression taking place in, first of all, what she's talking about, and then how she's communicating it, what she's actually conveying, which I think is self-evident if you read her posts. And so we speak on this conversation on Aligning with Success about what we need to do to improve ourselves, improve our business. They're tied together, one and the same. And so learning from somebody who's actually experiencing that in real time, I think is really a fresh perspective, especially for many of us who've been at it a while and maybe are stuck or maybe having a hard time getting out of first gear. And Sophia seems to be unattached to a lot of the paradigms that we were raised with. Well, she is unattached to many of the paradigms that we were raised with concerning our health, our success, our well-being. And so she's got less chains holding her down or holding her back from being able to analyze and interpret and apply the information. So I thought, boy, it'd be really nice to hear what she got out of this 9 days. I say 9 days because we did a recap today of Joe Dispenza's program, which was about 6 hours, again, today of information. So it's all fresh on my mind. It's all fresh on her mind, but you don't want to hear from me just yet. Let's hear from Sophia. So Sophia, I'm not sure if you have anything just that you want to fire out, or if you want me to just ask you questions, but let me just start by framing it again. Mm-hmm. you have been on a journey pretty much all your life. You've had some pretty special moments through your journey in life that really awakened you to some truths about yourself that maybe at one point in time were just speculations. You know, those insights that we have, and you think, well, is that really what I'm supposed to be doing? Is that really me? Did I really hear from my higher self? And you know, you have the doubts and the questions, as we all do. But things have continued to progress with you. And then you've come into information that's really helped cement it into some clear ideas that you've shared with the group in the past. But you're on a fast moving train and accelerating in your understanding of what this means. And I'd like to see if there's something we can take away from tonight's call that might help somebody on this call improve their performance or improve their outlook or improve, well, I guess there's not much more than that. Improve your performance, improve your outlook. That's pretty much the game, right? So in whatever aspect of life we're talking about. So are there some things that you want to highlight with respect to what you gained from this experience? And I'm just going to let you go ahead at that, and I'll just pick at that and see if there's some things that I can tie that back to what we're doing or where we're at. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you again, or reintroduce you to my wonderful 22-year-old daughter, Sophia DiMuccio, who is a very, very bright light in this world. And she's got her background set there with the moon beaming over her. So there she is, that dolphin in the playground.
That moon energy, that divine feminine energy right there.
All right, there you go.
Hello,
Fire away,
everyone.
Sophia.
Hi, thank you guys so much for having me and for being present with me today. Yeah, these last 9 days have been life-changing, to say the least. And I think what's changed most in my perspective is the way that I view myself. The whole concept really had this theme of, what does it mean to be human? What are we truly capable of doing? And they got into kind of just how incredibly sophisticated we are. We are so much more intrinsically intelligent than we have been led to believe. Our bodies are capable of so much more than we've been led to believe. Our bodies are capable of healing themselves from any disease. Our bodies are capable of self-regulating. Our bodies are capable of tuning into vibration and frequency, picking up on vibration and frequency, and you can start to learn how to do this consciously. And that's something that we call, you can consciously pick up on different frequencies in your environment. But it all started with a basic understanding of, what are we? So if you looked at your hand right now and you put it under a microscope, what would you see? You would see some cells, right? And then if you took those cells and you put those cells under a microscope, what would you see? You would see DNA, strands of DNA. Now, if you put the DNA under a microscope and you looked at it, what would you see? You would see atoms, right? Now, if you put the atom under a microscope, and just stay with me here, what would you see? You would see particles, electron, proton, neutron. These are invisible moving charges, and these can also be thought of as waves of energy. So you truly are not matter at all. You are an energetic being. You are frequency at your core. The idea of matter is simply an illusion to us. Now, where does this energy come from? These atoms, these protons, these electrons, these waves of energy, where are they coming from? We know from science that energy can neither be created or destroyed, it's only transformed. So that means that it was always there. It wasn't just created out of nothing, it's always been there, right? And our atoms are actually arranged by the field of energy in place, right? We think that the atoms just link together, you know, they have this random order and they just link together and everything works out fine, but they're actually being organized by a field of energy. That field of energy was referred to this whole weekend as the field, the one field, because there is a field that connects, that we are not only part of, we are made of. This is a field that runs through each of us. And we can think of ourselves almost as distortions in the field, right? So what does this mean? It means that we are intrinsically connected not only to each other, but to infinite possibility, because all the energy that's ever been here and all the energy that ever will be here is already here. That means every arrangement of atoms, all the arrangements of matter that you could ever possibly conceive is already here. It's just simply of changing the energy, tuning into a frequency, so that you can move those atoms into place. So those atoms can be shaped around the energy field that is already present. It's already here. So our job now is to say, okay, how are we connected to this field, and how can we use the field to get the results we want? Well, we are of the field, of the energy in the field. And we know some things now. For example, we know that emotions are a form of energy. We can very much feel this change in different emotions. You can feel what it feels like. What does Bob Proctor say? That feeling is conscious awareness of vibration. That's his definition, right? So whenever you're experiencing a feeling, what you're really experiencing is a change of frequency. We also know that thoughts are a form of energy. We can measure this. You can hold, you can point a beam here and you can measure the thought wave that's coming through. So what does that tell us? It tells us that we are constantly projecting into the field. We are constantly projecting through our thoughts and through our feelings information to the field, because energy can be thought of as information. Think of it like when you're on the phone with someone, where's their voice coming from? It's traveling through the air. It's being carried by sound waves. A wave is a form of information. So you're constantly, through your thoughts and your feelings, broadcasting into this field, sending information. And guess what? The field responds back to you. And that's what we call our outside circumstances, our results. So it was really interesting to look at myself in this light and to stop looking at myself as a limited 3D being, but to actually look at myself as almost like a broadcasting tower, if you will, constantly sending out information, right? And when you realize this, you start to kind of be more aware of what information are you actually sending out? What message are you actually sending out? And I think my work now has been led to, how can I raise my awareness so that I'm always conscious of the message I'm sending out, and I'm always intentional about the message that I'm sending out? Now, a lot of people are really great with the thought part. They know what they want. They have amazing goals and desires and dreams, right? We can think positive thoughts all we want. But sometimes those positive thoughts don't always translate into effective behaviors. There's usually some sort of disconnect here between what the mind wants and what the body wants. And Joe Dispenza said something that really, really resonated with me. And he said that the body is the unconscious mind. And I never really thought of it that way. But the body actually is the manifestation of the unconscious. So if you want to test what your true beliefs are, not just what you say you think you believe, but what your true beliefs are, look at your actions, look at your behaviors, look at your decisions. That's going to show you where your true beliefs are. And if you can notice a disconnect between what you say you want and what you say you are versus what you actually are doing physically, then you can start where there's discrepancies in the results of your life versus what you want versus where you're at. That's what it's coming from. It's coming from the things that you aren't recognizing as unconscious behaviors, right? And he went through this, Joe Dispenza is amazing. He went through this whole process with us of essentially showing how one day after another, your thoughts don't really change that much. I mean, you wake up in the morning, you get out of bed on the same side, you put your pants through on the same leg one at a time, you get a thought to go to the toilet, you go to the toilet. He took us through this whole process of our day, and we're essentially living the same day over and over again. Why? Because our thoughts are not changing from day to day, and therefore our behaviors are not changing to day to day, and then our results aren't changing day to day, and then our results create our feelings, which are changing day to day, and then our feelings circle back and create new thoughts. Well, the same thoughts, because our feelings haven't changed at all from day to day to day. So we need to override this program. We need to be able to become greater than ourselves. We need to overcome ourselves. We need to become the master of our body, the master of our unconscious mind. There's very, very clear tools that were presented on how to do this. And one of the tools is meditation. Now, a lot of people have perceptions about meditation. People think it's like, oh, well, I'm just gonna think positive thoughts and it's gonna calm my mind and I'm just gonna feel really good. But meditation is far more than that. And I have been meditating now for almost 6 weeks, every single day. And I can tell you, I've literally taken a quantum leap in consciousness. Because in meditation, we have an opportunity. See, we have an opportunity to detach from the thoughts that we are continually repeating every day. We have an opportunity to detach from the environment, which are feeding back the feelings and the thoughts, right? It's a constant cycle. We have an opportunity to detach from the outside stimuli. And when you can do that and you can come in, then you're detaching from what you know. And you're tuning into a world that you are unfamiliar with. You're tuning into the unknown. And Joe Dispenza's meditations revolve around connecting with the field. So essentially tuning into your own awareness of the field. And it's not something that you can see, right? It's not something that you can see. So it makes sense to close your eyes, because if you're not connecting with the field, what are you connecting with? The outside environment. And you cannot be in the quantum realm when you're in the 3D material realm. You have to be able to detach from that. Furthermore, you have to be able to detach from who you think you are, because it's who you think you are that is keeping you where you are. You must become greater than who you are today. As he says, you have to, what does he say? You have to break the habit of being yourself. That's his words, that's his book. Break the habit of being yourself. So we have to come into this place where we are a nobody. We are nowhere in space, nowhere in time. And it seems like really crazy to think about, but when you actually stop and you close your eyes and you sit with yourself and you just breathe for like 20 minutes and you continually relax your body further and further and further, you naturally just start to break away from the thoughts and the feelings of everyday life. You naturally start to come into more awareness, and you can kind of observe your thoughts now and see them pass by and say like, oh, I didn't even know that I had that thought. That's funny. Okay, cool. And you know, it's going to feel uncomfortable, right? Because this isn't something that you do often. Your body's going to want to get up. It's going to want to, you're probably already thinking about, I have to do this, this person needs me, I have these emails to answer to, this thing to do, whatever. All those distractions are always going to be there. But every single time that you experience that distraction and then you bring yourself back to the present moment, you are creating a new paradigm. You are creating a new habit. You are breaking the habit of being yourself. And that's what meditation is. It's a practice. There's no such thing as a bad meditation. As long as you're sitting there, you're noticing yourself come out of the present and then drawing yourself back into the present, that is meditation. And the next time when you're going around in your daily life and you start to feel yourself getting drawn into the emotions of a certain situation or drawn into the stress from work or overwhelmed with family and kids and whatever. I have a lot less responsibilities than you, so obviously we're in a different scenario. But you're going to start to notice every time you step out of the present, and you're going to say, "Hey, this doesn't feel like me. I don't like this feeling." And you're going to notice it, and you're going to bring yourself back. And every time you do that, you are creating new circuits in your brain. You are literally rewiring your brain to stop living in the past, to stop living those same thoughts and those same choices and those same behaviors, because that is the program. And how do you separate yourself from the program? You become aware of the program, right? And that's what happens. You become aware of the program. You're like, oh, I'm running a program. Let's come back. Come back to presence. Remember who you are. An infinite, abundant, unlimited, energetic being that is always connected with the field of infinite intelligence, who always has access to that intelligence, who can always tune in. But you can only tune in when you're present. You can only tune in right now. That's how you enter the quantum field. You got to go through the eye of the needle. You got to become totally present, stay centered in yourself, open your heart. So I can actually show you. I don't know if Papa, you want to jump in at some point, but I was thinking of showing.
Yeah, I think that would be great, a practical application so that we can actually experience it. Maybe you can even take us through a guided meditation.
Yeah.
I just want to recap something that I heard as well from that that discussion that we watched. Personality creates your personality creates your reality. That's what you're saying.
No,
and
he said your personality creates your personal reality.
That's it. Your personality creates your personal reality. Write that down, guys. That's so brilliant. Your personality creates your personal reality. So if you want to change what you're currently experiencing as your personal reality, what must you change? Your personality. And so that means you need to behave in a manner that's different than what, and by the way, you're going to be uncomfortable. Now, there's a really important point about comfort. We tend to move into our comfort zone and we say, oh, that feels right. No, that doesn't feel right. It just feels familiar. There's a difference between right and familiar. Right means in alignment with what you want to experience in life. Your personality, that's in alignment, the person you are being, who is in alignment with the experience that you want to have in life. Whereas familiarity, that is the feeling you have when you're in your comfort zone, which is a reflection of the life you've been living, your past, your whole history. So if you want to detach from the past, stop repeating the past and create new results in your life, you've got to detach, as Sophia said, from that past personality. And therefore, you will have to expect to be uncomfortable. Being uncomfortable becomes your new comfort. And therefore, you're constantly in the unknown. And the only way to create space in the unknown is to move away from the familiar. Well, what's the familiar? Everything you know, everything you're currently experiencing, all the choices, all the thoughts, all the actions. So if you want to start conditioning yourself, try doing something different from your norm. So, there's some of the thoughts that Sophia's already shared with you, but what about if you put your pants on for the next 3 or 4 weeks, the other leg first, the left leg first? What if you did that? Then you're automatically creating an uncomfortable condition, which means you're creating a space in the unknown. And in the unknown, you have an unknown possibility. You have an unknown reality rather than a familiar outcome. Rather than a predictable outcome, you now have a non-predictable outcome. Well, the predictable outcome is what? You know exactly what tomorrow is going to be like. If you had to bet your life, I bet you'd be 99% accurate as to what tomorrow is going to look like, because it's a program that's running all by itself without even you being aware. And so often in our business, what we experience is something happens that's catastrophic, a health situation. And a lot of people look at that as a tragedy. I think it's a blessing. Had it not been for my back injury, the car incident that I have and my back injury, I would have not been forced to snap out of the program that was running me. And that accident snapped me out of that program. And all of a sudden I was in an unknown, which is meaning a new possible future reality rather than the same old, same old. Now, at that point in time, I became conscious, aware of what I wasn't thinking about, like my future. I was in autopilot. And how many of us are in autopilot? When you set goals for your Nikken business for sales this month, if you even did that, then it's probably pretty modest in compared to last month. Very modest, very small incremental change, because you don't expect much to be different. Because you've never experienced a quantum change, not consciously. It's either happened to you and then you think, well, it happened to me. It was an outside condition that changed me. Truth be known, you attracted it. Your body, your soul was screaming, wake up! Time to change the program. You've been at this too long. So I believe, as maybe you are starting to believe, we created the shutdown. the collective consciousness of humanity created COVID, the shutdown, the stop the world, I want to get off. How many of you have been feeling, think about it, seriously, how many of you have been feeling for a very long time, and that feeling becoming heightened in the last months, that things have to change, something has to change. You felt intuitively, it's got to change. This can't go on like this. And you couldn't put your finger on what this meant, but there was this underlying feeling that it was overwhelming for, I believe, what we now have is the reality of that, a mass consciousness shift. Everybody at the same time came to the same realization, we need to put the brakes on. And so, boom, universe responds with whatever's most convenient. Because universe is the intelligent mind of all things saying, oh, let's work with this one. This one's right on our doorstep. Let's make this one happen. So I just wanted to say, highlight the point, personality creates your own, what is it, Sophia?
Personal reality.
Personal reality. I got to write that down. So let's carry on from there. So were there any other highlights that you wanted to point out, by the way? Like we got into, there was Greg Braden. There was
so many, honestly.
Oh my God.
So
what about, what one takeaway would you, I would say, what one takeaway would you take from Greg Braden, and what one takeaway would you take from, let's ask each person, like, let's go through each person, because I think there's something so special of each person. So what takeaway would you want to say, take away from Bruce Lipton, who is the author of The Biology of Belief?
Okay, best takeaway, so many from him because he's honestly a genius, but I think the most evolutionary information that he presented with us is his kind of prediction of the evolution of humanity and where we're going. And he explained to us essentially the process of evolution. So if you start at the small scale, bacteria, there's two steps that you take between each level of evolution. First of all, we know that he studies epigenetics, okay? So that's the study of how essentially your environment signals the gene. So your genetics, a lot of people grew up with the idea that you have these genes and they control your whole life. And if you get a disease, it's just, you know, you had the gene, so like there's not much you could do about it. You're just a victim to fate. We've discovered now that that is absolutely not true, that it's actually the environment that signals the gene. So what do I mean by that? I mean that it's outside signals, which are actually, as we know, being processed by your perception, by your interpretation. So comes in through your five senses, then it gets, you know, warped into whatever story your mind wants to make it about based on your programming. That sends a signal to your nervous system, which directs the gene, directs the proteins on what genes should be activated. So if you're in a constant state of stress, what gene's going to get activated? Probably the one that are going to cause cancer, disease, illness, and all these things, right? We know this. But if you're constantly sending a signal of health and wellness and peace and ease, right, into your body, if you're constantly in a state of alignment, then you're going to be in perfect health.
Let me just touch on that, because the distinction is fight or flight, which is the stress. So cortisol levels are high and so forth. And if you're in a constant state of stress, whether it's mental, emotional, physical, it's stress. And that stress sends out the triggers and the body goes into fight or flight. And when it's in fight or flight, it's not going to sit there and say, oh, this is a good time to meditate. It's not going to be relaxing. It's going to be on heightened awareness, heightened alert to the material world around you, because it's fight or flight. It's got to survive. So it needs to be very tuned in to the material, not the spiritual, not the field, which is the opposite of creation. So if you're in a constant state of stress from underlying factors in your life, how can you tune in when you're so tuned out? When you're tuned into the material world rather than the world where the creation actually originates from, the quantum field. The material world is the manifestation, the distortion in the quantum field. So if you can calm the senses down, if you can give yourself a sense of I'm safe, then You shut down the fight or flight response and you open up the intelligence of the body, and all of a sudden the miracle of the body, all the repairs, all the construction, all the stuff that happens instinctively without consideration on your conscious mind goes to work. You have a pharmacy in your body that is superior to all the pharmacies on planet Earth combined and all the doctors in them put together. The intelligence of your body and its infinite connection to the mind of Creator is able to produce, with the 20,000 plus genes in your body, hundreds of thousands of protein signaling. So it's able to respond and adapt to all the environment. That's how we've survived all this time. Go ahead, Sophia.
Yeah, just to add to that, and your body starts healing. The second you're not in fight or flight, you're healing. Let's just put it that way. Your body's natural state is healing. Your body's natural state is regeneration and regulation. And I'm not just talking about physical healing, because I can only speak to my personal experience. But the more that I've been meditating, the more that I've been consciously putting my body into this state of coherence, I've noticed emotional healing is happening. Like things that happened to me in the last year that were very emotionally, I don't know, straining for me, very emotionally draining and very hurtful, have been like completely let go of. And obviously it's been a healing process, but I feel like in the last 6 weeks alone of meditation, it's like been a quantum leap in this healing. Like I've just had like complete forgiveness, complete release of these emotions. And I think it's, my body just did it naturally because I was in that state of coherence. I've been practicing a state of coherence.
Okay,
anyway.
wait, let me just emphasize this because that's a really important point. Now we're talking about what Greg Braden really drew our attention to, the idea of the mind-heart coherence, which we've been talking a lot about, by the way, on this call, Sophia, is we've been talking about the mind-heart connection, that they have to be in alignment, which he speaks of in terms of coherence. Otherwise, if it's incoherent frequency, your mind and your heart are not in the same game, playing on the same field, then you have the distress, and the distress triggers the physiological response of fight or flight. You're not in a calm state.
Yeah, absolutely. We can get into Greg Braden a little more, and I think we should do a quick heart focus exercise because it only takes 5 minutes. But back to Bruce Lipton. So he just explained to us this concept that essentially the environment signals the gene. So how evolution works is, let's start with the bacteria. Now the bacteria will get as big as it possibly can, right? It has all the receptors, the environmental communicators are on the skin of the bacteria. So the bacteria is going to get as big as it possibly can. It will fold over in membrane, right? The kind of the way that our brain is folded, right? That's so we have extra receptors. That's why we're the most evolved, I guess, what am I thinking? Evolved creatures on this planet. So we have the bacteria, and then what happens when it gets as big as it can? We get a group of bacteria. The group of bacteria will start to come together, and they will start to form a film around them, right? And eventually this film will come together and they'll create an amoeba. So they literally evolved into a new life form. So again, we see this concept that the amoeba will get as big as it possibly can, as much skin, right? As much environmental receptors as it can before it's gonna explode. And then what will happen is a group of amoeba will come together and we'll start to see other organisms form. So what we are essentially is a group of amoebas arranged in the most evolved way that they possibly can. So what's next? Well, we have to get as much receptors together as we can. And now what we have is, we have a family, we have communities, right? We have a nation. We have these bigger groupings of human beings. We've grown to be as evolved as we can. We have as much, sensory activity as we can. Our brains are fully developed and folded over. We have a lot of signals to the environment. And now we started to come together in these groups. So what's the next phase? Where are we going next? And in Bruce Lipton's terms, the next phase in our evolution is unity consciousness. It's a whole globalization of humanity. Forget this idea of of separation between us. Forget these invisible borders between us. Forget these, we have religion separating us, race separating us. We use these concepts to create mental blocks between us and another person. But when you start to understand that we are all a manifestation of the same source, we are all just little blimps in the field, right? We're all the same organization of energy, of atoms, right, and parts. We literally come from the same source. There's only one. All the energy that's ever been here and all the energy that ever will be here is here, okay? This is the field. And we all are not only in the field, but of the field. So I think that's where we're going next, is we're realizing our interconnectedness. We're realizing like we're literally constantly communicating through energetic vibrations. We are constantly sending out vibrations, and we can measure this. Well, they have measured this. The electromagnetic fields coming from your heart alone can be measured up to like 3 meters in diameter, right? So imagine you're constantly walking around broadcasting these signals, interacting with other people who are broadcasting these signals, and we're all constantly entangled and communicating. We are so much more connected than we know we are. And if we actually came together and started to use our intentions and our thoughts and our feelings as one, imagine what would happen. I'll tell you exactly what will happen, because we know this. This is a scientific principle. If you get 2 waves, right, 2 waves of energy acting in phase, right, on the same vibration and the same frequency, they're going to create what we call constructive interference. They're going to add together and their amplitude is going to increase. So imagine all of humanity thinking and feeling as one. The amplitude would increase so much. Imagine how powerful we would be if we were all acting in sync. And that is exactly where humanity is going. That is the shift that is taking place right now. We are in a process of evolution because the way that we were going was no longer sustainable.
Can I point something out here? Something you mentioned, Sophia, the way to create awareness of the program is to become aware of the program. Because the second you become aware of it, now it's your consciousness and you're observing the program from a separate point of view. So consider the point that you just made about humanity and unity consciousness. In order for unity consciousness to become a reality, a way of conceiving ourselves, the higher consciousness, we have to become aware of the program. And what is the program that has kept us from unity consciousness? It's everything that's been divisive and dividing us. For instance, a 2-party system, a red and a blue. You name it, all the race card. And so all of those things are divisive by design at the level of consciousness we were operating with, where unity consciousness was not a condition of the mind of the planet. But for enough people on the planet who desire a peaceful outcome, life on earth with peace and prosperity for all and justice for all, we have to put a spotlight on the program. We have to absolutely observe the program. So you cannot deny the divisiveness anymore. You have to acknowledge it. And now you see it for what it is and not get tied or drawn into it.
Exactly. You bring light to the darkness. That's what awareness is. You're shedding light. Awareness is light. Just think of it like that. And you can't come out of the darkness until you shine the light, right? You literally have to be the light. And that's why we are all being called to be the light, to be the people who recognize that we are all manifestations of the same source, that we are all different facets, different perspectives of the one creator. And that's why I love Nikan and what it stands for. And I love the global wellness community, right? Because you have this platform of like-minded individuals. And if you knew how to harness that energy, really harness that energy and start thinking and feeling as one, start setting intentions as a group, as a collective, you guys could do the impossible.
Okay, stop right there, because you just triggered that intention word. So I'm going to put that down. We got to come back to that. But speaking of intention, what's the takeaway? Short. We need to keep the time count.
Okay.
And I'm okay if we go a little bit over. I've accommodated for that. So, and Lynn McTaggart, The Field. I have the book on my desk here. In fact, right here. the field. Lynn McTaggart, I met her. She's an amazing human being. And she actually did a live intention experiment with us, global live intention experiment, where they were physically measuring the reaction to the material world with a device in St. Petersburg, Russia, with the scientist in St. Petersburg measuring the oscillations according to when and before, during, and after the meditative process of the number, about 1,000 people that we had on this particular experiment. And then, of course, she went into a whole bunch of things. So what's the one thing in terms of a principle, a takeaway from Lynn McTaggart?
The mirror effect.
Oh, tell me about that.
So Lynn McTaggart started doing these intention experiments, and what she noticed wasn't necessarily what was happening to the people who were being intended on. I mean, there was amazing things happening to those people. They were standing for the first time in months. She was literally healing racial divides in Saudi Arabia. Incredible things were happening through these intentions, but what was most interesting wasn't what was happening to the people being intended on. It was the people who were intending. She found that the people who were intending for another to heal started experiencing healing in their own life. So, they started healing from physical ailments. The pains that they had had for years were spontaneously gone. When people would intend for peace, they would start to find peace in their own life. One lady who said she was like estranged from her son for 14 years, her son reached out to her like a week after doing this intention experiment and wanted to reconnect and rekindle their relationship. So that was really interesting to me. It was almost like as soon as you, in her words, get off of yourself, right? As soon as you start to become almost like a channel for that healing energy, not just to come to you, but to go through you and to intend it towards another, right? Because we're all interconnected. So what you do to another, you do to yourself.
Oh my goodness, doesn't that sound familiar? Do unto
Really
others as you would
is.
have them do unto yourself.
It's incredible. And then from that perspective, why I think it works so well is because you're not attached to the outcome, because it's not about you anymore, right? So you're literally getting out of your own way. You're becoming just purely a channel for healing and for peace to come through with no attachment.
I just want to customize this for a second, because when we speak in the language of healing in Nikan, we speak in the 5 pillars of health. So we're talking about all 5 pillars, not just one. We're not talking about just the body. The healing can be mental, emotional, physical, financial, social, all of these familiar.
Yeah, imagine what would happen if you intended for abundance for another. What would happen to you? Right? So it's just this incredible mirror effect that she saw. And in one of the most effective healings that took place, where there was a woman who essentially she couldn't walk. She had like severe back problems, couldn't stand or walk for like 7 months. And she came to this, and she was one of the people being intended on. At the end of the intention, she stood up and she was like, I can't believe it. I'm standing. And they asked her, like, what were you thinking about when they were intending on you? And she said, I was sending that energy to my mom who has cancer. So she also became a channel for the energy to flow through. She didn't make it about her either, right? And I just think that's so beautiful. Like, really think about that and really internalize what that means.
Okay, one more speaker. Let's refer to one more speaker because we want to do this meditation. So what other speaker was a real feature for you? I mean, I know which one I'm thinking of.
Well, this is hard. Greg Braden, but also Anita Moorjani had a really strong message that I think I want to share.
Okay.
So Anita Moorjani, just a quick story. She's a woman who was essentially on her deathbed. She had cancer and she had tumors all over her body.
4th stage, and she was literally hours from death.
Yeah, hours from death. She was in her final moments in a coma. Anyway, she had an experience where she essentially crossed over into the other side. She crossed into the veil. And on the other side, she saw her father, who she had always felt a need to prove herself to him. She had always felt this judgment from him while he was alive. And when she was on the other side, she said she only felt pure unconditional love. There was no need for forgiveness even, because there was no judgment, right? It was that pure. And she realized that if she decided to go back to her body with this new knowledge, because she realized what had been causing the disease in the first place was this constant feeling like she needs to prove herself, this constant feeling like she can't be her true self, essentially, she realized that if she went back now with the new knowledge that she had, she would heal very fast. Anyway, she decided to go back. Within 5 days, 60 to 70% of her tumors were gone. And within 5 weeks, she was back at home, cancer-free, and she's been living cancer-free for 14 years now. Incredible story. But she talked to us a lot about the connection with the divine. And what stuck to me most was she said, love yourself enough to trust your intuition. Self-love is so important, because if you don't have that, you can get a hunch, you can get a message from your intuition, you can get an intuitive knowing, intuitive feeling. And the second somebody else comes into your environment and questions it or says, that's a little crazy, I don't think that's gonna work, or just, and then you doubt yourself and you're like, no, that can't be it. I even caught myself doing this, right? I'll be in my meditation and I'll start getting a vision and I'll be like, no, that can't be it. And then I'm like, no, I have to trust that first instinct. I have to trust my intuitive abilities. I have to trust that I am a divine being and I am capable of more than I know. And when you truly love yourself, you just embrace that. You embrace the fact that you are actually unlimited in what you can accomplish and achieve. That's why you came here. You came here to experience. You came here to love. You came here to live, to fully live, right? And it's not many of us don't love ourselves enough to go out there and live, to push our own boundaries, to be absolutely limitless, to listen to our intuition, to tune into our inner knowing, because we've been so conditioned to think that we know nothing and we just have to listen to doctors or listen to the news, or listen to our friends or listen to our families or whatever. You have all the answers. You have access to every possibility that could ever be imagined. You have access to infinite intelligence, right? But we're not taught that. So no wonder you dismiss it the second it comes to you. That's why her message was so powerful. It was like, love yourself enough to listen to yourself, to trust yourself, because you really are that powerful. You really are. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. All right. So, and just, I mean, the icing on the cake, Greg Braden, of course, he's a brilliant author. He's a brilliant lecturer. And the one thing that he did for me, and I think I've shared this with the group already, and I just wanted to reiterate, was for me, meditating or getting into a state where I felt confident in meditation was the questions, the doubts, the thought processes, all that stuff that's going on. And of course, the phone pulling at me and so on and so forth. I'm very easily distracted. So the one thing that he gave me that I've been practicing since is really effective for me, and it may be for you. A light touch on your chest where your heart is. Just a very light finger touch on your chest. And then close your eyes and focus on your heart. Focus on your mind in your heart. And with that light touch, it's really easy to get the focus. And then to slow the breathing down. Breathing 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, 5 seconds in, because what we want to do is we want to get out of the fight or flight condition, which by slowing our breathing down tells our body, you're safe, you're safe. And when your body's safe, it turns off all the fight or flight and turns on the healing mechanisms. So, and the last point of this, point number 3, is, Karina, if I can mute you there. There we go. Point number 3 is, let me just regain. Okay, so focus on the heart, slow down the breathing, and then, of course, the intention, the gratitude. When you move into a frequency of gratitude regarding what you're intending, what you're actually acknowledging in that space is the fact that it's there with you. It's not in the future. It's right there with you. Gratitude implies it's there, because what would you be grateful for having received? So when you move into that state of gratitude, the easiest thing to do is to think about something you're really grateful for, or someone. Or compassion. That's the other emotion that really can help trigger this state of being, of consciousness, of awareness, where you bring your consciousness and your awareness really close to you. Remember, what we're trying to do in a meditative state is tune out everything else and tune in to the higher consciousness, get alignment with the quantum field, from which at that point, we're not creating as the personality who is conditioned to create and recreate the past. You're creating from the new idea of self, which is the expanded self, the infinite self, the quantum self. You know, for instance, and I'm going to say this because I believe this, whenever Jesus would perform a miracle or just prior, the first thing he would always do is separate himself from the condition around him. So he would step away from a crowd that was whining and wailing so that he can center himself. He would then state to himself, Father, you always hear me. That affirmation says, I'm connected. So he would connect with the source. Therefore, the statement, I and the Father are one, is accurate and applicable. I and the Father are one. We are now plugged in. We're connected. It's like the internet. Bang, I got the upload, I got the download. We're connected. Then you tune out all the other stuff. And then now what? Now from this place, you can create from a position of neutrality, from a position of being one with the source, not Mike DiMuccio, the personality, creating the personal reality, but Mike, the higher consciousness, tuned in and plugged into the higher consciousness. And from there, we can create a new reality with much more intention, much more power, because we're now plugged into the universal mind, which is plugged into every mind there is. So that's what I got from Greg Braden. Sophia.
Yeah, that's right in alignment with where we're going. I wanted to actually do like a quick heart focus exercise because I think that's one of the most important tools you can have in your toolkit. And just
how much time do you need, Sophia, so I can gauge that?
Like 5 minutes.
Perfect.
Not a lot of time. It's very
Awesome.
quick. But that's why it's such an important tool to have, and it's so easy. But I just wanted to add on to what you said was it really aligns with what Joe Dispenza talks about, which is like your mind and body are not in coherence, right? That's why you're thinking one thing and you're doing a completely different thing. Or you're saying, I really want to like be fit and active. And then you get up in the morning and you're like, I don't feel like it, right? There's a disconnect. You have to train your mind and body to think and feel as one. Train yourself to be feeling the same emotions as that you are thinking, right? Because when you start to really train yourself to get into the space of coherence, your mind can then become the master of your body. Now your body is going to start, it's a practice, right? It's practicing your thoughts being a direct instigator of your feelings. That's exactly what you're practicing. You're practicing
versus the other way around.
Feel by thought alone. How to feel a certain emotion by thought alone. Yeah, exactly. Versus having a feeling that you're lazy and then thinking, oh, I'm not going to do it.
Okay, so repeat that, because that last point, having
being
feeling...
able to induce a feeling by thought alone is powerful, because feeling is a much more powerful frequency than thought. And how we know this is because the heart produces the most powerful electromagnetic field of all the organs in your body. It's measured out to like 3 meters. The one from your brain is measured out to like 1 meter, okay? So it's a lot less powerful. However, when you sync these, and we're the only creatures on this earth that are able to do this, to sync our mind and our hearts, right? You're gonna amplify your field. And this is kind of the way I see it. The heart is like the generator, okay? The heart is like producing this massive amount of energy, right? It's like pulsing. But now we need to direct this energy. And that's why we have thoughts, because thoughts are we can very precisely tune our thoughts to direct this energy to the exact intention that we want to focus it on. So that's kind of the way I see it, right? When you align it, you're like working like this incredible broadcasting tower, producing all this energy and then focusing it. So you can just draw to you.
Before you do the exercise, I just want to say, how often should somebody do this exercise in the course of a day if they really want to change the results in their life?
Every time you're making a decision, especially an important decision. Like, I constantly tune into my intuition. This is the way I see it. Like, I don't do what I want anymore. I do what source tells me to do. You know, like I've given myself up. Like I'm at the mercy of the higher intelligence at this point. Every message that I put out on my page, I get intuitively. Like it's a download. I will intend to receive a message and then I'll wait and I'll listen. Like I'm not consciously thinking about it, trying to like, oh, where's the answer? How can I do this? I literally just wait and go into that space of mind-body coherence, and it will come to me. It will come to me, right? Because now it's like mind, body, soul is all aligned. And it's like, if I'm putting out the frequency of listening, I want to align with source, then source, because my mind and body are acting as one, source receives that, the information comes back to me, and I get a conscious thought. Oh, this is what I should do. That's how intuition works. It's like you're receiving energy from you're putting out what you want, the question, it could be a question, right? What should I do in this situation? Or how can I best communicate my message? Or what is my role at this time? These are questions that I ask myself every single day. And then I'll wait. And I'll wait for the field to respond back to me. And then I'll get a conscious thought because my mind and body are acting as one. So the second the feeling hits, the thought hits. And that's how I know that I'm receiving information from source, is because I'm in that state of coherence. And you can feel it. You're going to feel it in a second when we do it. You will feel the difference. And so when I'm in this state and I get these intuitive hints, I know that it's my intuition talking to me, because I'm in that state where I'm a receiver. I've opened myself up, I've tuned my body, and I'm just working. And there's so many other benefits that happen when you're in this state, like your immune system just kicks into overdrive and the healing just starts happening spontaneously. This is how we're meant to live. This is the state that we're meant to be in. And this is the state that I think before, a very long time ago in human history, when we were one with the earth and we were living in harmony with nature and with each other, and we kind of had more of this, humanity really understood their connection with everything. This is the state that many people were operating in, just the state of coherence, even in, not having all the technology that we have today, because they had an inner technology that we are now beginning to rediscover. So why don't we do this? So the steps are very simple, as my dad explained. You want to start by closing your eyes. Take a deep breath. And you want to place your hand over your heart, wherever it feels comfortable. And you'll notice that when you put your hand over your heart, your awareness naturally just wants to shift into your heart center. You'll kind of start to feel the sense of ease go over your body, right? And now we're going to start to slow down our breath. So we're going to inhale consciously for 5 seconds in, and then we're going to exhale for 5 seconds, all right? So why don't we start? Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And really feel as you do this, continue breathing at that pace. As you do this, I like to focus on really feeling my stomach go out on the exhale, or go out on the inhale and then go in, contract on the exhale. So we're belly breathing. I'm going to give you a few moments just to really get into the rhythm of this breathing. You almost feel like a warmth coming out from your heart and spreading all over your body. Now, since we are in this group setting, I want you to imagine that you're sitting in the room with all the other people on this call, and you're all breathing as one. feel the connection. Feel the connection radiating out from your heart. See if you can sense everyone else in this call. Do you feel that increase in energy? Continue to radiate out from your heart center. Almost imagine like a pulse. And now together, we're all going to start focusing on the intention of gratitude, on the feeling of gratitude. You can call forth from your memory something that you are truly and honestly grateful for. It could be the people on this call right now. It could be Niken, the global wellness community. Think about all the ways that Niken has changed your life for the better. Think about all the people that you've met and how they've influenced you. Think about all the experiences that you've had that have shaped you. Feel truly and honestly grateful. Let that feeling well up inside of you as you say a thank you to everyone that you've come across on this journey and to everyone that is here sitting with us today. Now surrender to that feeling. Just give your all into it. I always say, when you think you've surrendered, surrender more. We are all connected right now as one heart, one mind, one spirit. And when we work together, we are more powerful than we can ever imagine. Now, last few breaths, I want you to really focus on amplifying that feeling of gratitude within you. Call forward whatever memories you can to help you really tune into that feeling, that frequency. Remember what this feels like. You are training yourself right now to tune into the feeling of gratitude by thought alone. I can feel the love from all of you right now. Now, when you're ready, you can bring your awareness back to where you're sitting here and now, and you can open your eyes.
Wow. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I think wow is probably the right sentiment right now. Well, I think maybe that'll be something we do on a regular basis.
That's what I'm saying. I was hoping this could be like a little practice round, and now it's a tool. And next time, if you want to throw a little intention in there, this is just practicing kind of getting everyone's energy in sync, not only with themselves, but with each other.
How do you feel? Let's just take a
I
minute.
want to get some feedback.
Let's just we're over time. That's okay. We're recording this, and if you can stay on, stay on. How are you feeling? Any feelings out there? Unmute yourself.
Immense gratitude.
I feel my heart still, it's like this intense wave. It's very palatable.
I felt a warmth and a tingling.
I felt the tingle.
Yeah, my hand is still tingling. And it was the one that was over my heart. Sophia, does it matter which hand you put on your heart for this particular?
No, not at
Okay.
all. This is like ancient technology, as Greg Braden puts it. Many indigenous tribes, monks and nuns do this as a regular practice, as a way of just, because basically wherever you put your hand on your body, your awareness is naturally going to be drawn to that spot. So
This is the position normally, but they actually have their thumbs against their body, against their chest.
yeah, right in their chest cavity, right there. But I do this. I usually meditate with my hand, both my hands on my heart, like this. So yeah, whatever's comfortable.
Now, I want to just remember what you're feeling right now is right now. Your mind is not anywhere else right now. So you now understand, feeling-wise, what it feels like to be here and now, to be fully present. And this is especially useful as a tool if you're, as Sophia's saying, going into a decision or trying to get away from a scenario that has you all up and at 'em. You know, like you've got all wound up and you catch yourself. You see the program is running. You realize, oh my God, I'm in the program. You can then connect, take a few minutes, a few breaths. Doesn't have to be 5 minutes. It could be a minute. But just by bringing yourself right back here, right now, that thing that was preoccupying you fades into the background. And now from this place, you can proact. You can choose thoughts, feelings, and actions different than what the program would have had you doing.
And not for anything, but you won't be limited to the same perspective that you were limited to 5 seconds earlier when you were in that flight. What is it? Fight or flight response. When you're in the fight or flight response, you know, you're so consumed with what's happening around you, right? Because you're in survival mode. Like you have to really be able to look at all X, Y, Z and figure out what you're going to do, right? So you're limited to this 3D reality. But when you tune into that, you literally open yourself up to infinite possibility, and I'll bet you that you will see that situation from a perspective that you never saw it from before. And a solution will come to you that you would have never considered when you were in that other state of being. So that's really the power of changing your state of being. Changes everything, changes what your mind is capable of conceiving, your creative faculties.
How has this changed the results in your life? I mean, you've been alluding to that, but anything else that you can tell us what you've experienced as a result of putting this into practice on a daily basis?
I can give you kind of like the analogy that I shared with you earlier, but basically, like, I feel like up until honestly, even like in the last like 2 weeks, this has been like, I've been meditating every day for 6 weeks now. So it's been a constant progression. And through that time period, I've just been feeling amazing. Like things do not stress me out anymore. Things that would have stressed me out before, it just seemed trivial. Now, like I'm not overly consumed with like the drama. I can very easily like separate myself from a story or a narrative, especially today when literally the media is just feeding us so much drama and chaos. Like I'm just completely disconnected from that. But in the last 2 weeks alone, I would even say with all this new information from the seminar, I feel like this is where I was at before and like this is where I'm at now. So it's almost like there's definitely a continuation that happened. Like I'm still the same. I don't want to say I'm the same person that I was, but that's obviously was still me. But now I'm kind of looking at the past, like from a point of almost disconnection. Like I'm not attached to myself, right? And I'm looking at all the situations that have happened in my past from like a totally new perspective, from this perspective of higher consciousness is essentially what it is.
I want to point that out in sort of a physical way. So if this here represents the past, meaning this is coming to the point where we are now or going backwards. So going out toward my elbow is the past, going backwards. And this is me now, and then this is going toward the future. Then if this right hand was the past, but now I'm here, the past here is up here. It's a different past. It's a different past. My consciousness is now here. So as you said, I'm looking at the past from this point of view. That's my timeline.
Exactly.
It's no longer where it used to be. So
And
you've
it's
literally rewritten the past.
not that the events in the past have been rewritten. It's my perspective on them that have been rewritten. And I think it's just because when you step out of your own unconsciousness and you start to recognize your own program and your own unconsciousness, you start to see it in others, right? And you start to realize, like, in all those moments where you would blame someone and you would make yourself a victim to a certain situation, you can't play that game anymore because the other person was simply acting out of unconsciousness. And how can you blame someone for something they don't know? You know, it's like, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Really,
Yes.
when you're still in the program, you don't recognize that that person is playing the program. You just think that they're out to get you, and you're like, oh my God, my life sucks. I'm a victim, right? But then when you step out of the program and you're like, oh my God, now I'm so conscious of like all those like defense mechanisms and the trauma response, and just getting so engaged with storylines that are not conducive to the reality that you want to live in. Like, I literally said to myself, like, I don't want to be that person anymore. Like, that's not me anymore. Like, I don't want to be attached to that story. I don't want to be attached to that pain, because we all have pains from our past that stick with us unless we're able to literally transcend them and start to look at them from a different perspective. And I read something today in the book A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, and he said that the only evil on our planet is human unconsciousness, and the realization of that is true forgiveness. Because when you recognize what's perpetrating so much evil, because our true selves are infinite, abundant, loving, caring, compassionate, interconnected beings. That's your true self. So anyone that's not acting in alignment with that is living out a program, right? They're failing to recognize who they truly are. And so how can you blame someone and judge someone for something that they aren't aware of? You can't, right? And forgiveness just happens autonomously. It's kind of like what Anita Moorjani experienced when she went to the other side. She said there was no need for forgiveness because there was no judgment. And that's exactly like how I feel now. It's a lot of situations that were kind of holding me hostage prior to like this meditation journey, I would say. Like painful emotions that were still lingering. It's like, I just understand it from such a different perspective now that I'm almost like, I forgive you, right? Like I totally and fully forgive you, because I understand that it was the program that was running and not your true divine self. So yeah, that was huge. Huge.
Wow. We're at
Can I say
10:14.
something, Mike?
Okay.
When I was taking this course and I was asked to choose someone who inspired me, I chose Sophia because I had been following her Mind Palace. Her presentation tonight, her grasp of the information, what she's been sharing with us, I know will be continued. She's on a journey, she's on a path, and I truly believe our future is in good hands with young people like this that are able to bring us to the realization of a better life. Thank you, Sophia.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That means the world to me. It really does.
Well,
Thank
I'm just tickled. I get to go hug her in a second, and she's in the other room. So I got to tell you, Sophia, not that I wasn't impressed before, but honest to God, I never know what's going to come out of your mouth, and it just blows my mind. So
Me neither. That's what I'm saying, guys. Like, me neither. I'm hearing it for the first time. I didn't practice this. Like, it just comes through me. That's literally what it is, because I practice the connection so much that it's like so natural.
so
now.
that's it. That's the key.
Inspired
Practice.
is the word.
Practice the connection,
Inspired.
guys. Practice the connection. And this could be applied to all facets of your life. Every condition in your life can change. You can see your business transform. You can see your lifestyle transform, the members of your family, relationships, so forth. All those things are really in your hands. And what does it take to just practice the connection, practice the connection? So as a rule, pick a time, at least once a day, maybe before you start your day, I think, because, the program, the second you open your eyes, it's already got you running out of bed to the bathroom. I mean, you don't even think about it. Boom, the body's saying, hurry up, catch up, right? So think about how you can maybe stop the program from getting started, recondition, reset the tone, reset the intention. As Sophia said, maybe there's a part 2 to this, Sophia, where we can look at setting an intention, maybe next week.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you learn how to go from being centered and aligned to creating, conscious creating, which is establishing objectives and moving toward those things with an understanding that the technology to achieve that is already at hand. There's nothing you lack, nothing. How can you lack anything if you're everything? So, and of course, the only way you can even come to that realization is when you make the connection. When you make the connection, you can feel the truth of that statement. And you too will be able to make those claims. I and the Father are one. So we'll leave it at that tonight. Thank you for joining and staying on well past our scheduled time, And I'm so grateful for all of you. You guys, Sophia said it so many times, we don't even know how powerful we are as individuals. Imagine how powerful we are as a community. And so maybe part of my role in this community, this call, Aligning with Success, is to bring greater alignment to our purpose, greater alignment to our objectives, and to create that heart-mind coherence as a community so we can create bigger outcomes, especially for the planet, through the vehicle we love and are grateful for, Nikan. So with that, I'm going to say thank you, Sophia, precious Sophia, who has just enlightened us with, an energy is just transformative. So thank you to you, and thank you to all of our attendees. We'll see you on the Nikan Highway.
Thank you.